So, this is a video that I've wanted to make for quite a while now, and it is one that resonates deeply with me. I wasn't sure how to go about it because I don't want it to sound like I'm not enjoying myself in my current situation or anything like that, but I kind of just wanted to share how I feel about life at the moment, and maybe some of you can relate and it may be able to give some of you guys inspiration as well. This is more of a sort of reassurance for myself on what I'm doing, and I have made, a couple of massive commitments this year already. So the point of this video is sort of to share how my journey's been so far, and maybe some of you can relate to this and it can give you guys some inspiration as well. So without any further ado, I just wanted to clear the air and say that this is how I genuinely feel about certain things, and yeah, without any further ado, let's get into it. So I am currently a 25-year-old living in New Zealand, and from a very, very young age, I've always been extremely passionate about cars, machinery, ships, airplanes, and I had two dreams as a child, and one of those was to become the captain of a ship, and the other one, which outweighed the other one tenfold, was to become a pilot. But as a kid, I was told that I had colour deficiency, and I'll say colour deficiency because colour blind and colour deficiency are two separate things, and I can still see a majority of colours, they just look different. So I was told by family members and friends that my chance of being a pilot was pretty much slim to none, that the colour deficiency was going to ruin it for me, and that I could spend a lot of money on doing the training, but I may not actually be able to get a license. So, as hard as it was for me, I did give up that dream for quite a while and pursued other avenues. Keep in mind, I was a very young kid at this point, and as the years went by, I, further developed my interest in machinery and everything. And at the age of 16, I got my learner's driver's license, and this was a real turning point for me because I lived in a country house out in the middle of nowhere, and I had no way to visit friends or family unless my parents could drop me off there. And obviously, if they were working or, it was a holiday or whatever, well, I couldn't go anywhere. So this license was a massive deal for me, and I remember going in there, getting it, and then on my way home looking through Trade Me and finding a 1994 Toyota Celica. And I used to drive around in one of these things as a kid. I absolutely love these cars. And I'd always wanted a Supra as well. So when I found this car on Trade Me, I went into my bank account, which I'd been saving money from the age of about 8, and I had just enough to buy this car. And you best believe that 2 days later, I went down to the fella's house that was selling it, and I bought this car. And it opened a massive door for me because not only did I get my license, I got a car, I was learning to drive, and I could drive to my friends' houses and actually do things. I wasn't trapped at home when there was no one else around to sort of give me a ride anywhere. And that was a massive deal for me, and it also reignited my passion for working on vehicles because I had always loved fast cars and everything before that, but I'd never had a car of my own. And being the type of car that a Toyota Celica is, it is a quite sporty car. And I've even still got the thing now, 10 years later. But anyway, that's besides the point. They're a very sporty car, so I decided to start spending money on this vehicle. And I started to do it up and make it look flash and sound cool, put an exhaust and everything on it. It sounded exactly how I wanted it to. It wasn't the fastest thing around, but it definitely, to me, it was fast because I wasn't used to anything else. Anyway, this sort of reignited my passion for mechanics and machinery. And as time went on, I got a job in roading, and I was building roads here in New Zealand. I was doing quite a lot of that sort of stuff, and I was working long hours, and I was an 18-year-old at this point. I thought it was great. I was raking in the money, spending it on my car, and I thought life was great. So about a year after I started roading, I got an offer to be an apprentice in a workshop at the company I was working for, and I was going to be a heavy diesel mechanic working on their excavators, their loaders, their trucks, everything, their bulldozers, you name it. And I jumped at this opportunity because I loved mechanics, and diesel mechanics are paid relatively good money, and it was something that I really found myself wanting to do, and I was very passionate about it. So I took it, and you best believe that those 4 years it took me to get qualified, I worked my ass off. I was doing 12 to 15-hour days a lot of the time. And that may not seem like a lot, but later on when I met my partner and everything, it was quite strenuous on the fact that, she obviously wanted to spend some time with me. And I see people say that you need to sort of do what needs to be done, but at the point I didn't have to work that many hours. I just did it because I enjoyed the money, and I really didn't see myself being able to do anything else, if I'm completely honest. I felt like that was what I had committed to, and that's what I was going to be stuck doing. And for about 3 or 4 years after that, I just kept going and doing this diesel mechanic job, and I'm still doing it now currently, and I do enjoy it. It is definitely a good job, and it's definitely something that I recommend anyone that's into mechanics and that gets into. But like any job, it gets to a point where you sort of start weighing up whether it's something you actually see yourself doing in the next 10 to 15 years. And there were some very hard points in my apprenticeship. There were some times where I just wanted to give up and quit. A lot of people know what it's like to work in the trades where people are hard on you and everything. And I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful for the people that pushed me and pushed me. I don't take any sort of negative things away from that kind of thing. I'm a very positive person, and I try to take all the positives away. So I'm very happy that people were hard on me as an apprentice, because that really pushed me. And that's actually what probably got me over the line and got me qualified. But as I was saying, all jobs get to the same point eventually where they don't have the same appeal that they used to. And in the last 3 years, I really needed a hobby that didn't involve cars, because my main hobby is still working on cars. And, I've still got that same Celica, it's still sitting out in my garage. I've actually done a restoration on it, and I'm currently undergoing finishing that. But I needed something else away from mechanics, because it was getting a bit much working on other people's stuff all day just to come home and work on my own stuff. And it got to a point where I didn't have a company vehicle. I wasn't being paid good money at all. I was actually being paid quite a lot less than that. And my own vehicles were starting to break down, because my travel to work was an hour and a half each way in my own vehicle. I was barely making enough to pay my bills. I'd be lucky to have $50 at the end of the week to pay my gas bill to get to work, and that was scraping by. There were weeks where I had to borrow money, and I'm not proud of it, but there were weeks where I had to borrow money from either my partner, or I'd have to sort of scrape by and not eat for a day or two just to be able to get to work. And this was really like mentally taxing as well, and it didn't really fit the life that I'd envisioned for myself. I'd envisioned a nice life where I could, raise some kids with my wife and be happy, and we could, I could still work hard, but we could be all taken care of, because that's my ultimate goal. And basically what happened was I got a job offer out of the blue one day. I met my wife now. I met her while I was at one of my friend's houses. She was my friend's partner's best friend. And I met her while I was around there visiting one day. And I just kept going back there. And she lived in another city about 2 hours away from me. And it got to a point where she said to me, hey, one day she said to me, hey, would you like to move in? Because we'd been seeing each other for quite a while. And I said, if I can find a job up here, I will. And long story short, about 3 days later, I got offered a job, and I took it. And why wouldn't I? The job was paying me double my current paycheck. They offered me a work vehicle. The hours were a lot less. They were still full time, but they were about 10, 15 less hours a week. So, yeah, I took it. Well, I'd be silly not to. I did this for probably the last 4 years, 3 years, something like that. And I ended up wanting to get into something other than mechanics as a hobby. So I took up flight simulation, because I thought, well, if I can't be a pilot, I might as well enjoy it some other way. And I ended up going on a holiday, and just the experience of being on a plane again just really revived and rekindled that love for flying that I had when I was a younger kid. So I decided that I was going to try to do my pilot's license regardless. And I did. I applied for my pilot's license, I went for my trial flight, and I turned up for the trial flight. And basically, I turned up there. I was a bit heavier than I am now. I was never, a bigger person, but I probably weighed about 25 kgs more than I do now. And with the fuel that was on board, the aircraft was just overweight, and I couldn't do it. That was basically what they told me, was the plane was too heavy, and that if I came back later in the day, I could have a go once the fuel had burnt down. And unfortunately, I had a couple of other things on that day, so I couldn't go back and do it that day. I rebooked it for 2 weeks later. About 3 days before I was set to go on my flight, I woke up one morning and I felt absolutely garbage. And keep in mind, I was 24 years old. I woke up, I felt absolutely garbage. And I went to work and I did a couple of jobs, and I was in the middle of servicing a machine, and I just said to my workmate, I said, "Hey mate, I need to go. I need to go to the doctors. I really don't feel good." So he said, "Okay, sweet as." So I dropped him back at our workshop and I drove out to the doctor. The doctor hooked the blood pressure machine up to me straight away. First thing they did, and they said that my blood pressure was 200 over 100 and something. And that, I didn't know what that meant. I'm not a doctor. Never checked my own blood pressure before, so I had no idea what that meant. But I soon learnt that it was very bad. And what followed was rigorous blood tests. I was going to the doctors at least once a week. I racked up a good $2,000 or $3,000 in medical bills that year alone, and they couldn't find out what was wrong with me. No one could find out what was wrong with me, and I couldn't fly. I didn't. I'm a very, very safe person when it comes to that kind of thing, and I couldn't fly. I couldn't bring myself to even try to fly feeling like that. And I knew I wouldn't pass a medical anyway with blood pressure that high. So I was going through these doctor's things, and it felt like this dream had just been shot down again. And I was genuinely gutted because I was finally doing it. I was finally doing my childhood dream of becoming a pilot, and it was shot down. Anyway, fast forward another 6 months, and I go in for a doctor's appointment, and they tell me that the weird thing they find is that my blood pressure is raised, lower, raised, lower. It's not constant high or constant low. It's constantly bouncing around. What they found was that and I'm guilty of this, I will admit that I did this. I was sleeping for 4 hours a night, and I was drinking about 7 cups of coffee a day. And that wasn't including any energy drinks or anything that I was having at the same time. That was just coffee and lack of sleep. And as soon as I started improving those things, I started to feel normal again. And as soon as I got everything under control, I went straight back to the flight school and said, "Hey, look, I want to reapply and do my PPL again." And straight away they said, yep, they jumped at the bit. And this year, I finally managed to get in and go for my trial flight. And then I managed to get in for my second lesson. I managed to get my logbook. And I must say, even just seeing the logbook with the hours ticking up now is crazy to me. Something I wanted to do as a kid, something that I never thought was possible, is now happening. And it's crazy how fast it's happening too. I went from no time to an hour to 2 hours so quick. And this is a massive deal for me. For a lot of people, it may not seem like a massive deal, and people might, just think it's not that big of a deal. But to me, it's massive, because this is a childhood dream that was shot down multiple times, and I'm finally doing it, and I'm finally starting to realize that I actually enjoy flying a lot. And obviously I do. I wouldn't be flying if I didn't. But I actually enjoy it to the point where I would consider doing it as a career and committing to the funds it takes to get those certifications. I passed the eye tests and everything, I've passed the medical, and I think that this is the route that I want to go at. So, because my job now pays really well, I'm going to keep working there, saving money, obviously paying off the house and everything as well. But I'm going to use this money that I get as well to fund my pilot's license and do all of that, because I think that this is that well-needed change that I needed. This is the hobby that I needed that wasn't mechanics, because flight simulation and video games and everything, that's all fun, and that is a hobby of mine. But this is something thrilling. This is something that gives you a feeling of, well, gives you a wide range of feelings. Anyone that's, flown an aircraft will know that. And this is what I want to do for a career. This is what I want to do, and this is the direction that I want to go in. And I'm not saying that I want to go all the way and do international, commercial flights or whatever. I would be happy with even something like sightseeing around New Zealand. For those of you that know, New Zealand is a very, very beautiful country, and it has a lot of scenic views. There's a lot to do. There's a lot of places to land, especially in smaller bush planes. And I would love to even do sightseeing tours, flying over the Alps. So it is something that I really think that I want to pursue as a career, and it's 100% regardless I'm pursuing it as a hobby. This is something I can see myself doing in 10, 15, 20 years. My job now, I really enjoy it, I really do, but it is starting to get old. The novelty's starting to wear off, and I am starting to want to pursue other avenues in life and something a bit more rewarding, in the sense of money is one thing, but I can tell you for a fact that no one would be working their body as hard as a lot of those men and women that do the trades do if the money wasn't good. And that's the only reason they do it, is because the money helps with everything in life, and they can find enjoyment out of that. I really enjoy mechanics, so I enjoy working on machines and everything, but I feel like it is time for a change. And I think aviation is definitely that change, and I've finally been given the opportunity to pursue this career and to do what I want to do. And as I said, it's been in my mind for 20 years now that this is what I want to do. So I would be silly, handed the opportunity, not to take it. But anyway, I just wanted to do a quick video and sort of talk about why I'm choosing to pursue aviation and move away from the mechanics side of it, to help you guys get to know me a bit better and to relate to any of you who may be in a similar boat. Maybe you're doing a different job and you want to transition to another job. It may not have anything to do with aviation or mechanics. You just want to transition from one thing to the other. And for that, I say go for it. If you have something you really want to do, and you have something that you really, really, you've wanted to do your whole life, and something that you can commit to, something you know that you're not going to get halfway through and give up, then do it. Do it. I cannot stress enough how important it is for us to have change and to pursue what we want. Life is very short. Life is very, very short. So you might as well spend it doing something that you want to do. And for me, that's flying. So yeah. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I just wanted to share this little bit of information about myself, and it's more of like a little personal diary for myself as well. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked it, please hit that like button. It really helps me out, really shows you want more. Don't forget to click subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Stay safe, and goodbye for now.